Hey guys, M13 here. This video is about, well, I think a good short title would be like people I've killed. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's like only so many degrees of separation, like what is it, 7 degrees of separation between you and the Queen of England, or between anyone and anyone else, if you could, but there's also, the same thing kind of applies when someone you know, or someone that knows of you, dies. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, maybe you have a friend of yours that goes for a drive and gets into a car crash and dies, but you were considering inviting him over to your house at that night, but at the last minute you decided not to invite him, and then that same night he died. So if you had invited him, maybe he would have lived. So that's, you should, obviously in that specific scenario, you shouldn't feel guilty. But there's other different levels. Like, that's a very vague level of how responsible you would be. Like, if you weren't thinking of inviting them over at all that night and they got in a car crash and died, then you'd have like absolutely zero responsibility. But if you honestly were considering inviting them over and then you decided not to, and then they died that night, then yeah, you would have like, you weren't responsible, but because of your specific decision that you were considering doing one thing, and because of your choices. Yeah, so in that scenario, you might feel like 2% responsible or something like that. Of course, you shouldn't feel guilty, but you might. I have. So let's get into me. When you have any level of fame, you find out about deaths that are related to you. What do I mean by that? I mean, over the years, on multiple occasions, I've had people contact me to tell me that their boyfriend or their father or their son loves my videos and they're dying, or they just died. Yeah, it's weird. It's something you don't think about when you think about having YouTube popularity, that you'll be hearing about other people's deaths on a semi-regular basis. And then sometimes, like, I remember one specific instance, I had a mother contact me to let me know that her 14-year-old son, who loved my videos, died on his dirt bike. And he was like 14 or 15, and that's horrible. And I was like, did he get into motorcycles after watching my videos, or was he already into them? And if she had said, he didn't ride before your videos, and because of you he went out and bought a dirt bike and then died on it, then I would have felt some guilt. Oops, thank you. Not a lot, but I would have felt some. But in that case, he was already riding long before he found my videos. He'd been riding since he was like 10 or something. So I didn't feel any guilt. I'll give you let's skip to the more interesting story. Interesting doesn't necessarily mean good. It could be interesting and horrible or bad. There was a foreigner that I knew in Taiwan. We were acquaintances. We weren't friends, but we were friendly to one another, and I'd see him around on a regular basis, and he'd see me around on a regular basis. And he had been in Taiwan for a long time, and he arrived here long before I did. So he's pretty much a lifer. He'd already been in Taiwan, let's say 10, 15 years by the time I met him. So he was a bit older. And I went to KFC one day, and he was there. So I'm like, oh, hey, so-and-so. And I went and sat down at his table, and do you mind if I join you? And then we were just chatting. And he drove a car, and it was an absolute piece of crap car. The guy didn't have much money, but he just never got into scooters or motorcycles. And I'm like, well, so I said to him, I'm like, he doesn't have much money. He's kind of poor even, and yet he drove a car. I'm like, and I said to him, the amount of money you're wasting on gas and maintenance and this and that. I said, you could get yourself a small 50cc scooter practically for free. Like, there's some foreigners give them away for free. So you could get yourself a free motorcycle, and it would cost you like $2 US to fill the tank, and it would last days. you'd be, you know, and you'd get around quicker. You'd save time, you'd save money. And I told him specifically, I'm like, yeah, if I were you, I would get, just for going to work and traveling around the city, I'd get myself a Yamaha Jog 50cc. And he's like, oh yeah. And then this is a guy who didn't ride, didn't want to ride, and I talked him into it. And then 3 months later, 3 months later, it was on the news. A foreigner in my city riding a Yamaha Jog 50cc, hit by car, in a coma, and I think he died like a year later. And it sucked for, he was married with children, and it sucked for his wife and kids because the coma ended up like draining them financially. Yeah. And so in that situation, like what percentage am I responsible? Fairly high. Do I feel guilty or bad about it? No, because I found out through his close friends, like a lot of the details around his death were hidden from everyone. Not only that, they had like a big charity drive for him because he was in a coma. So they raised lots and lots of money for him. But the details that were left out of the news and everywhere else was he was drunk and he wasn't wearing a helmet. And yeah, and when he had his accident, he was like coming home at 3 in the morning drunk with no helmet on. So yeah, I feel zero guilt for that. It's like, yeah, I got him into motorcycles, but I didn't tell the guy to get drunk and ride one without a helmet on. Yeah, so yeah. Oh, and there was one other incident. I made a whole video about this. I made a video about a couple of my subscribers. There was one subscriber I made a video about who passed away. That was cancer, but he was a big fan of my videos and he wanted to come out and do my tour. His best friend ended up coming out and doing my tour, like to help him, to like represent him or something. And then, not to represent, you know what I mean, in his honor. There you go. And then there was another situation which I think the worst I've ever felt about one of those situations is there was a girl in America who watched my videos and she saw how convenient and how good scooters are, and they really are. If you're in this, it's amazing. I'm doing a long commute recently, and I see cars lined up for miles in traffic, and I just fly by on the side like this, and I go to the very front at every light. So no matter how bad the traffic is, it's pretty much like there's none at all with regards to me and my riding and my travel time, because I can bypass all the traffic. So there was a girl in America who decided just to get a scooter for her commute to work to save money and time. And again, it wasn't her fault at all. It was some guy without a driver's license, an immigrant in America without a driver's license, ran a red light, ran her over, and didn't even stop. And she lost her leg. So yeah, but she said the only reason she got a scooter was because of me and my videos talking about how convenient they are. And then yeah, so yeah, can you imagine what it's like for actual famous people, like movie stars and stuff? They must hear about, like, oh yeah, so this person is such a big fan of your videos and they just passed away, and this person this, and they must get requests on like a weekly basis. Hey, could you write this person an email? They're dying of cancer and they love the movies so much, and they would get those kind of requests on like a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's weird. Anyways, that's the video.